Yay. I'm just going to mute everybody to start, so then you can always like unmute yourself when you guys want to talk. Yay. What a good turnout to our first car. Hey. Okay. Awesome. Good morning / evening, depending on where everybody is at. I'm so excited for our first call. So a couple of quick things, and then we will dig right into things. Is with our calls, they'll take however long we need to take, 1 to 2 hours, depends on how many people come on, how fast people land the plane, how many questions we have. So just so you can allocate timing wise, that's what it'll look like. When we come on the calls, each one will be a little bit different with different themes and questions depending on what the group needs, what we've been talking about in the program. And we'll go through that stuff, which is more of the mastermind style. And then we will move into what I call like hot seat coaching. So if you have something, 1 or 2 things that you really want to talk out, get some clarity, get some coaching on, then we'll have opportunity for that. And if for whatever reason you don't have something that you don't need some clarity on or some coaching on one particular week, still come on, because you'll hear stuff from other people. And often that's where we get a lot of the value. And you're like, oh yeah, I was wondering about that, or whatever that looks like. These are all being recorded to post inside of the group. And I know it doesn't really need to be said, but obviously just like inside of the group, it's the same on the calls, where whatever's said on here is safe. It's not shared anywhere else. So what we're going to talk about today on the mastermind side of things is this whole theme of effective and ineffective. You know, we're 1 week into kicking off this course, and all sorts of emotions come up for people. Some people are like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Some people are like, holy shit, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, we're revamping and restructuring lots of things. I know for some of you, you felt like you had it all figured out, and then you're like, oh my God, wait, maybe I don't. Some of you are really validated in the fact that you are clear, and some of you are more confused than ever from going through and restructuring things. So this first month is like the hardest time, because we're going through really a lot of the foundational stuff. You know, we're not figuring out, you know, who do I want to be when I grow up, but even those of us that have been having a lot of success in our business, we're always evolving and growing. So to go back through these things is so imperative, because it's going to help you with all of the bigger stuff that we're working into. So that's the other thing I want to hit on as well. Even though we're going through this sort of foundational stuff in these first few weeks, throughout this program, if you have a challenge, you guys have been really good with this. If you have a challenge that you're running, or a really big question about your offers, you know, and you don't want to wait till the call, you can still post that in the group and get feedback. So even if we're not quite there in the program, you could still get the coaching and everything on it. So what we're talking about on this call is, in this first week since we've kicked off, I want you to think about one thing for yourself that you feel has been really effective, and maybe something that's been a little bit ineffective in this first week. So this could be your mindset, you know, slipping into overwhelm. This can be getting clarity on your message, signing a new client. But think for yourselves, and we're going to go around and share it. What do you feel has been something ineffective, something that's been ineffective that you want to work on now that we're coming into the second week and we're starting to get to know everybody? We're really getting into this program. And then when you're ready and you have something, like, don't overthink this, you can put your hand up and then unmute yourself and share. Remember, land the plane. So we don't need to go too in depth, but come in and share. And this is the mastermind side of things. So in the comments, when you guys are listening, if you have feedback around that, thoughts, you can relate to it, type it in the comments bar. If there's something that you really want to add, put your hand up and you can unmute yourself. But if we're all unmuted at the same time, it just turns into like total chaos where nobody can hear somebody. So it looks like Leslie might be ready to go. So go ahead and unmute. I'll unmute you. There you are. Oh, there, you're unmuted.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. Hi, Jenna. Okay, so what's been really effective for me is that I have been able to spend a lot of time reflecting. So this is my second time doing a more intensive business training and with you again. So, so it's brought to light a lot for me. Like, wow, look at how much you've accomplished in the last year. Like, even reflecting on what I'm about to do after this call, like it was just a dream for me at this time last year, like not even fully being able to envision it. And now I'm actually doing it. And the second aspect of that in reflection is reflecting on my movement message and putting it back out there again and saying, oh, I can go deeper. I can get more clarity. I'm able to see it from a little bit different perspective since it's been a few months right now. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this last week.
Yay. What about ineffective? Anything that you feel you've slipped into or doubted, or anything that comes up for you that you think moving into the program that you could do more effectively? Or are you feeling pretty good?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm being really gentle with myself, giving myself a lot of time and space to just kind of figure out how I'm moving into this intensive 6 months with my business. I don't want to put a lot of pressure on myself really quickly, because I know that this isn't the only thing I have going on. I have so much else, to do and to accomplish. And I need to make sure that I'm as gentle as possible. I've learned that about myself in this last year as I work on my business, and that it needs to really be able to integrate.
I love it. Yay. Okay, awesome. Who would like to go next? Yeah, go for it, Sam.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So for me, I would say what was really effective was definitely my movement message, because my messaging was something that I had definitely given some thought, but I wasn't like totally clear on it. And just being able to write it out and say it, and then even after coming on live, just really thinking about it and really like just speaking it over and over again and really knowing it. Then I went back in all of my marketing and all of my messaging throughout all my social media and my website just to see if it was like all really cohesive. And so that just kind of got me thinking about it all and making sure it all just works together. So that for me was really effective. And then I would say what was ineffective, this was really interesting because I was watching your husband's video on presence. Yes. And I realized that's something that I struggle with, is like being present and in the moment and just allowing things to flow naturally. I find that I am like a fairly anxious, kind of high-strung person at times, and I need to just like ground myself and like take a minute and just be present and in the moment and not overthink everything.
Yeah.
And I think that I do that a lot with all of my online marketing and with everything I'm doing. So for me, that was something to think about as well.
You're getting a lot of head nods with that. I think a lot of us struggle with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So that video your husband did, that was really good. That really got me thinking. So
thanks. I might volunteer him sometimes to come in and do.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Awesome.
And that's about it for me.
Perfect. Who would like to go next? Okay, Jen? I've unmuted you.
All right, awesome. So I think what's been so effective and really helpful for me is like putting stuff out there and really getting the feedback and seeing things from a different perspective. Usually I don't get that and I just kind of jump in, and then I feel like I'm changing things all the time. So it's really allowed me to kind of slow down and make sure that I'm coming across the way that I want to come across, and just really, really getting, somebody else's, people might think they're like being critical, but like I'm not taking it that way at all. So it's like I love that. I just like I want you to pick it apart because I just see it as my opportunity to improve and like get out of my own head. So that's been amazing. And then I think, what's been ineffective for me is I tend to really slip into this prioritizing business over family. And I really found myself doing that this week with all the notifications and wanting to help and wanting to be in there, and, you know, and then feeling like I'm not doing enough for everyone else. And so it's been, you know, it's been a struggle to kind of like reel myself in and set realistic expectations. Yeah.
I think that's so true for all of us of prioritizing that. I know it's been a theme from people messaging, posting in the group, commenting about some level of like overwhelm or like how do you manage all the things. And you know, the honest thing is like there's like 20 of us in the group, so we're never all going to be able to comment on every person's thing. And you know, if you've seen that somebody's posted and nobody's commented on it and you have a sec, comment on it. But if you've seen like 15 other women have commented on it and you know, your kids are right there and you've got stuff to do, like don't worry about it. Just finding that balance between it. But I will hop in today or tomorrow. I'm going to do just like a mini, like a 5 to 10 minute, just like as I see things come up for us, I'll do little trainings because I have some suggestions for us around the prioritizing and the overwhelming and not feeling like you have to be in the group all of the time. Because I don't want us to feel like as the months go on that we're like always inside of the group or feeling like, you know, guilty or anxious if we're not in there. So I think that's a super real thing for a lot of us, especially coming into a group program and we're like, oh my God, like, you know, because you want to love on everybody and get the feedback from everybody as well, but not feel like you're always in there. So yeah, that's really good. Effective and ineffective for sure. Yay. Who'd like to go next? Yeah, go for it, Jessie.
So what I've done effective is, I would say that my personality or an identity that I kind of stick to is like, I'm an all or nothing kind of person. Like, I'm either like, I'm all into my work and I'm sitting down and I'm doing it, or it's like, tomorrow's the day that I'm going to do it. So something that I found like really successful is that I've been doing like just things every day consistently and not allowing myself to like be like, all right, I need 3 hours or else what's the point? I've just kind of like allowed myself to like flow with the work and let it be fun rather than, you know, make it like a stressful thing for me in the course. So that's been really nice for me. I haven't like put a lot of pressure on like myself and like carving out times. I've just been like doing it as it feels good and it's worked really well. So that's a big thing for me. And so I'm really happy that that's moving well for me. I feel like ineffective is like I haven't really asked for help as much. I've kind of just been like doing the work, but not really asking for what I need. And I don't know if it's really out of a fear of like, it's not out of a fear for judgment because I'm all for feedback, but I think it's like, especially with like, and I've talked about this in the group, like technical things, like I know it's not that good. Like I'm, you know, like, and I'm like, that's all I know how to do right now. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I guess I could ask for feedback because then it would just help me be better. But, you know, coming in and being like, here's what I have. It's the best that I can do. And I know that you all could probably do it way better. You know what I mean? And like really like working through that, that kind of feeling for me. And also, I just accepted another job, which I told Jenna about. But so I'm going to be working in a neonatal intensive care unit for 20 hours a week, as well as running my business. So there's a little bit of like self-judgment going on around like, you just signed up for this big course and you want to keep your business alive, but you're going to do all the things and, you know, you're just all over the place, Jessie. Like, what are you doing? So kind of working like through that and those feelings.
I'm excited for you and for this job. And, you know, it can totally be done. And I think there's a big difference, too, between taking a job, you know, out of scarcity and something that you don't want to do that's going to totally energetically drain you versus something that you're excited about. And you can definitely make both work. And, you know, here's the thing, too, with feedback. And I think this would be valuable for all of you guys. You don't have to ask for feedback on everything. There's going to be things like Jessie, I think that was a really good example that, you know, maybe you don't need feedback on some of the tech stuff right now because that isn't necessarily what's moving the business forward. At some point, yeah. But, you know, like there's going to be things that we work through in here that you might already feel like you're pretty good with, you know, and we're like, no, like I don't need that. And then there's going to be other sections where we need like a bunch of feedback. So just like feeling into that as well of and asking ourselves, internally. Like, am I asking for feedback or not asking for feedback, out of fear, and I'm just like kind of staying in my own lane and not wanting feedback? Or am I asking for it because I'm actually really good right now? Because there might be times where, we just don't really require that, or even just simply from reading some of the other women's stuff, like we'll get some ideas and things that come through. So making sure we don't fall into like a pattern basically of either asking for it 200 times on everything because we don't trust ourselves versus never asking for it because we feel like we just have to do it ourselves. So always just asking, why are we doing it? Is it because we actually want feedback to help us grow, or are we looking for like external validation, or are we looking for just doing it for the sake of doing it? Because I mean, there's always different motivations of why we do those things. So just knowing that too. And like sometimes we don't need a bunch of opinions because that will just add to overwhelm, say like if you're asking for tech stuff and you're just like trying to get into the program and prioritize stuff, and it's like then if you have 200 tech ideas, you might feel like, oh my god, like now I have to add that to the plate. So just always thinking of like what actually makes the most sense for the scenario.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Who is next? Yeah, go for it, Ryan.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm in a coffee shop.
It's all
It's really
good.
loud. Okay. So what was really effective for me was doing the whole exercise around the movement message and really distilling everything I do down into that small statement. It just feels so good to have like clarity of this like umbrella, like this is like my launching pad and it's just little like as opposed to like in the group when I was still building it, I made this post and I had like 30 things listed for each piece, and it was like, yeah, those are all the things that I do, but how do I distill it down? And it helped me pull out this piece around the divine curriculum, which is something that's been like stirring in me for a while, like that is ultimately what I do. So it feels really juicy to like just have landed on it and kind of locked it down as like, yes, this is what I do. And now everything moving forward comes from there, instead of like something comes from here, something comes from there, something's coming from here. So that clarity piece feels super, super good. And I had a hard time figuring out something ineffective. The only thing that I could kind of pluck out was sort of what Jennifer said, sort of resonated with me. I can't say that I feel like overwhelmed, but I feel like ridiculously excited. And I think because I was in such a low vibrational space for the last like 4 weeks with everything that's been going on personally, I've been climbing out of it. And I feel honestly like the phoenix rising, like new levels of everything. That being said, like, so there was like so much excitement going on in the group. It was like, and I'm not working. Today is my first day back at work, so I didn't have work taking up time. So it was like, what's coming in, wanting in to be there a lot, like so much excitement with the launch of the group. So I think that sort of sent maybe like an unrealistic like time and energy put into it going forward. It doesn't really feel like negative or anything. It's just like, yeah, that was this week. So that's it.
I love it. I want to say too, like one thing with effective and ineffective is sometimes we hear ineffective and we think that it has to be like negative, like something that we've like done wrong or, that was bad. But ineffective could literally be like, oh yeah, I was comparing myself a little bit, or it's like something that we can just improve on. So it could even be something that isn't negative or bad or anything at all. I think that's just the leadership element of it, of just seeing what is something that I can keep improving on. So it could even be, I showed up fully in the group, but like, who was it? Was it Sam? And you said, but you weren't fully present, so it doesn't mean you weren't there or anything like that. It just wasn't as good as you could be with your presence. So always just noting that too, because I think sometimes we hear ineffective and we try to think of like something that, was like super shit, but it doesn't have to be bad by any means at all. Who would like to go next? Yay, Kelsey or Fran. I think Kelsey put her hand up first.
Yeah, everybody. All right, so ineffective, I would say that, so I've been struggling with my whole movement message and like niching down step literally since last year, since I invested in other coaches. Like I feel like I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars just to figure out what the hell I do specifically. And so because of that, ineffective would probably be that throughout the week at first, you know, when everybody was kind of getting their movement messages down and stuff, and they were getting really excited about it, I kind of let it maybe get to me, like made me feel this kind of desperation, like they're getting it, why can't I get it, like why am I still stuck at this freaking spot kind of feeling. And so it kind of pushed me into like more into my head than I needed to be, and kind of gave me like that shiny object syndrome, or like not staying in my lane. You know, when I'd see somebody have like they just own their message, or they'd be really excited about it, like, okay, well, why, like how did they get there, you know, what's exciting about it for them, and I just wasn't focusing on me. So what was effective for me was really just like stepping back and letting myself have space, and realize that I need to find a balance between like my head and what I know and what feels right. Because every time with coaches before that I've niched down, it was always something I was super passionate about and something I'm amazing at, but it was always forced. It was always something that I was excited about because I loved, but then after thinking about like being stuck just doing that forever and not having these other things, like it would totally drain me. So I finally just had to like tell myself to find the balance between what feels really good right now, niching down as much as possible to where it still feels really good, and then just trusting that moving forward, like that I can move forward with that now, and moving forward, if it gets more specific for me, I can get more specific then, and just trusting that it's going to unfold how it needs to. And just giving myself that space really allowed myself to get more clarity on my message and get the specific movement message that I have now, which is still gives me a lot of room to grow, but it gave me some clarity on like what piece of the puzzle I really help people with. I think all of us have, you know, the mindset pieces and the, you know, all the different pieces, but getting the clarity on the fact that I really help with the embodiment step of moving your life forward was really good for me. So staying in my lane and learning to trust what I know now and that I'll know more in the future was my effective stuff.
I love it. So good. And your message that you've come up with is really good.
Thank you. I'm excited about it.
Yay. Okay, cool. Fran, you want to go next?
Okay, so okay, you hear me?
Yep.
I don't know. Okay, cool. All right, so I guess the effective side of it was like really getting clear about what my niche is. And so, because I was confused at the beginning, because I wanted to like merge two things that they were actually too different from each other. But then I thought about it and I'm like, okay, you know, when we had the call and everything, so I got so much clarity around that. And I am so like really not feeling like a fraud anymore, because I got that feeling like in the recent past. So that makes me feel really, really good about what I'm doing, where I'm going, you know, where I'm heading and whatever. So an effective, I guess, you know, just dealing with some triggers that I had, like being in the group, because, you know, I've never been in the group before. So I had to deal with the fact that I was, you know, like, I was told about might not be good or whatever. So I got triggered a little bit at the beginning, but then I got, you know, I just turned that into something that was really giving me a genuine like feedback. So I'm trying to get into that space of, you know, community, instead of people just pointing at you and be like, ah. So yeah, basically I think that's an effective, turned out actually effective. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, can you guys put your hand up, like who found either on the giving or the receiving side it to be a little bit challenging to some level to either give some feedback or receive feedback on some level? Or did you guys find that really easy? Like I find that at some point or another it gets a little bit challenging, either hearing it or giving it. For me, I find a lot of the time it's giving the feedback is the harder part, you know, of like that people pleasing, like not wanting to rock the boat or say anything. And for some of us, it'll be the opposite, and to receive it is really hard as well. So kudos to everybody for going in and receiving what you received, giving out the feedback that you gave. And oh my God, Sam's daughter is so cute. I'll babysit her anytime. Jessica, do you want to go next? Here, you're unmuted.
Hey. Okay, so effective was my movement message. Well, like everybody else, I felt like mine, I sort of found, I've known what I do, but I got it into like a 3-pillar situation where it was like, oh, okay, these are my 3 things that I really focus on. I got it into 3 words, and I feel like now I can take that and base programs off of it and my coaching calls, and maybe just structure more, because structure is really my problem. And systematic, structured place. So that was really, really helpful for me. Ineffective for me has been, I was, sort of riding a high last week. I was really excited last weekend. I made more money in business than ever in a weekend. And so it was like I was coming into it and I was like so excited. And I feel like I sort of crested that high, over last week. And I just kind of fizzled out a little bit. And then this weekend I started feeling like, oh, you can't really do this. Who are you to think that you can do this? So I've spent some time journaling about that this morning and I feel a lot better. But I can just see that I need to stay in my lane, and this is what I know, and this is what I'm doing, and keep going with it.
Awesome. These are all so good. I'm pumped too. I don't know if you guys saw the announcement. We have Amy coming in on the 22nd in North America, 23rd if you're in New Zealand, Australia, who's going to be training all around self-sabotage and limiting beliefs. She's like next level. So that'll be really, really good. Now that the event is up inside of the group, if you have any specific questions, things you want covered, like she'll be live so you can come and join her. But if there's things you want to ask so you know that she's going to cover, you can go ahead and post inside of the group if there's certain things that you'd love to hear her answer or dive into. I'm just reading. So, okay, so Andrea's just tuning in to listen right now. Yeah, Amy Turner, Amy Turner. She'll be so good. It'll be awesome. So that was just a quick little side tangent from that. So what we're going to do is we're going to shift into more of a hot seat coaching style. So if you have 1 or 2 things, we'll start with one thing that you want to get some coaching on, some feedback, and this can be anything, right? If you're still working on the movement message stuff and you need some help, this will be a great time because we can do it live. There's lots of us on here. So, I'll be doing the coaching, but like I said, you guys can be commenting in the side. And if somebody has a really good suggestion or thing that they want to add, just comment it and then we can unmute you. That's where it has a very mastermindy kind of feel. Like it's not just about my feedback. Obviously, I'm here to facilitate and guide and give all of this. But yes, and yeah, Andrea, you'll be able to, this will be posted back into the group afterwards. Yes. If you have something that you want us to touch on, just comment it before you hop off. So when we go through, we'll go one at a time, land the plane. If you don't have anything, don't force it. You can listen into what other people, and it might spark something for you. And a big thing that I know we're all working on is our presence, building our trust with everybody, and really working on being able to drop in, which is really what turns on the flow to allow these things to come through. So you'll notice when we do our calls, there'll be little things worked in, you've already noticed this little leadership edge. So what I want us to do is just take 10 seconds before we pivot into this next thing. And that's part of the leadership side too, is that we're able to shift from thing to thing quickly. So what I want us to do before we transition into the hot seat coaching, and this is kind of fun too because we're all on video. I know Andrea's listening in, but because it's Zoom, you can't actually see who's going to be looking at whom. But we're going to do 10 seconds of eye gazing. Now, for some of you, you may have done this all the time. For some of you, you're like, what the fuck are we about to do? I don't want to do this. And that's okay. This might be great for you. This might be uncomfortable. But the cool thing is that you're on Zoom. So you don't actually know who's looking at you and vice versa. So what I want you to do is pick somebody, and I want you to be looking and focusing on them for the next 10 seconds. I'll let you know when to stop. And I just want you to appreciate them being here, their presence, the fact that you're here. And I want you to really, because this is something I've done a lot when I do eye gazing with people, I make it about them instead of about me at the same time, you know? So I'll look at somebody and I'm like trying to like pour all my love into them. And it's like a total reflection that I can't receive. So I also want you to be present of your own energy and that somebody or maybe multiple people are looking at you right now. So just being able to receive that and let that land. So we're going to start in 3 seconds. You can pick somebody and you don't have to smile, you don't have to giggle, you don't have to laugh, you don't have to try to make it not present. You're just going to tune in and drop in, okay? So we'll start in 3, 2, and 1. Don't forget to breathe. Awesome. So just a quick one. We'll probably do some more of that on the occasional call just to bring us in a little bit more present. So does somebody have something burning that they're ready to talk about specific to your business, something focused, something that you are struggling with, you want some feedback on, or maybe you're even just wanting to strategize, right? This can be about your offerings. This can be about a challenge, a launch. Leslie's got something. Go ahead. I've unmuted you. Oh, no, I didn't. Now I did.
Am I unmuted?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is something that for a couple of weeks I've been working on, and I have taken more inspired action on it. So I know that for me, for the type of business that I do, because it's so unique, and I have to work with vibrational marketing, I have to work with the energy of other people working to help market me and my business, as well as, you know, being online and all of that. So referrals, recommendations, like reviews, testimony, that's something that I feel really called to work on, you know, to get myself in a space of receiving and feel comfortable with that, because I am really quite confident about what it is that I do, who I serve, and how to go about doing that. It's a matter of being able to spread that message and have more presence and visibility. So I took inspired action on that in the last 2 weeks, and I messaged all the clients that I've worked with actively for the last probably 4 or 5 months, and sent them all very heartfelt messages asking for feedback. It was rather specific. I kept it very simplistic though, and gave it, you know, gave them easy actionable steps. You know, if you want to do it this way, or this way, with the links in order to be able to do that. 3 out of like the 11 women came back very quickly. No, actually 4 or 5 of them came back very quickly and said, oh yes, I would love to be able to do that. I'd love to be able to support you that way. You know, and they gave me all kinds of praise and talked about, you know, their breakthroughs, everything that's happened with them. And then only one of them actually took action on it, but she didn't do it right. And instead of posting it on my business page, she put it in my group, not my private group, but my other group. And I was like, well, now I don't want to go back and say, oh no, honey, you did it wrong. You need to do it here. So it just kind of got awkward. And I'm like, I'm just going to leave that. But I haven't gotten anything from everyone else. So how do I, because I'm a master at making things awkward, how do I, without it being awkward or uncomfortable, be able to follow up and say, hey, so you said that you would be willing to do this, but you haven't done anything. Like it feels weird to me now.
So my suggestion, if you guys have any ideas on this, go ahead and comment. But my suggestion around this is to not make it weird. I know that sounds very simple, but to literally follow them up and say, give something to add a little bit of urgency to it. Because a lot of the time people are well-natured and they're like, yeah, I'm totally going to do that. And that's everything from like giving referrals to joining a program to doing a challenge. Like, you know, people get interested, but they're not really committed to do the thing. And if there's no like urgency around it, they'll say yes, and then they'll just like totally forget. And so it doesn't mean that they're not willing to, or that it has to be awkward for you to follow them up. And I've had to do lots of these follow-ups. I would literally message them and say something like, Hey, Sally, just wanted to touch base. I know you said that you'd be able to give me a review, which I so appreciate. I'm just getting blah, blah, blah ready, or I'm getting ready to launch my new thing. So I'm just looking at streamlining and getting these up. Would you still be able to do that for me? And if so, when is a time that you'd be able to do that? And just getting a little bit more official timeline for them around it, because then they can either say nothing, they can say, actually, I can't. Both of those are pretty unlikely that that's what they're going to
Okay.
do. They're probably going to be like, oh shit, yeah, I totally forgot. Let me do that up for you. And even the one girl that posted it in the wrong spot, I wouldn't even say to her that you did it in the wrong spot or anything like that. I would just message her and say, like, hey, Sally, thank you so much for leaving that for me. It was perfect. It was so good. Would you mind to actually also repost that on my business page as well? Like, don't tell her that you have to delete it from the other thing, or, I would just leave it. But I would say it was so good. Do you mind also sharing it here? And just like literally give her the link and make it really easy for her, and just be like, that'll be awesome to have it in both places. And then she doesn't know the wiser that she didn't really like follow direction around it. But if she took the time to write it up, I'm sure she was excited to share her experiences for you. And sometimes we just make it weird with referrals and asking for reference, like not references, but testimonials around this sort of stuff,
Yeah.
where, and I know we had talked about this, that you were feeling maybe like there was a bit of almost like a receiving block around it, of asking for that and thinking that it must be weird, when actually, like, most people are super excited to do that up. It's like I posted in my group asking if I just could build up a few more things around it. And some women said, yeah, I totally will. And then they never did. And some women went and did it right away. But I didn't assume that the women that didn't do it, that they're not willing to do it. It's just like, you know what it's like on social media. It's so info overloaded, and people like see it and they're like, yeah, I'll come back to that. And then they see 200 other things and they just totally forget. So most people just need a little bit of a reminder. And that's how I would do it. But do it where it creates some urgency in terms of like a timeline, like you're getting ready for a launch, or you're about to do such and such. When would they still be able to? And if so, what does their week look like? Like, when would they be able to do it? And then see what they say, and just like hold them to it and be like, awesome, okay, great. Like, I'm so looking forward to receiving it. I will touch base with you that day. Or I look forward to seeing it. But just giving them that timeline so then they can do it. And a lot of people too, when you follow them up, they're not thinking you're annoying, but they're like, oh yeah, shit, I should have done that. I'll just do it right now so I don't forget. And then they'll just do it for you. So just knowing that people it's the same thing as clients, that people need follow-ups.
Okay.
Does that feel good?
Yeah, that feels really good. It makes me realize so quickly how I'm getting in my own way from working through. I mean, it shows me like, oh, so being able to receive is something that I need to work on right now. And I'm now seeing how it's showing up in my business, and that it makes me get in my own way because I'm taking something personally. And in all other aspects where, I'm healing and growing and rising, the second I start taking something personally, it shows me, oh, that's an area that I can work through. So yeah, this is really good. That was really good advice. I appreciate that feedback.
You're welcome. I saw Jesse just commented too. I think being lovingly direct is fine, and just asking for what we need is absolutely necessary, which is nailed it. Just being able to ask and being able to receive. I feel like that could be your area of ineffective, of like what could be more effective, is being able to receive and be lovingly direct in those kinds of scenarios where, it doesn't mean you have to be awkward or weird about it at all. And just as humans, we're allowed to be generally awkward and weird. I know I sure am, and that's totally cool.
Yeah, I'm a master at that. Thank you, Jesse.
Who is ready to go next? Is anybody? Jessica? Hey.
Hey, so mine's kind of two-part, and it has to do with that whole self-sabotaging thing that we were just talking about earlier. So I have a program launching this weekend, and I really struggle with consistency about promoting it. I am struggling with, if I'm doing it, I know I'm not doing it enough, but I don't want to rock the boat and do it too much. So I've been posting like, snippets, lots of body positivity stuff. And then maybe like every 2 days or so, I'll mention the program, but it's probably not enough. And so I guess I need some kind of like strategy surrounding promoting a program.
Yeah. So it starts on, is it the 20th?
The 20th, yes.
So typically, and we all are going to have different launch periods. We have different things that we're launching, different price points. So all of that will be determined, like something that's high ticket with like a long-term commitment is going to need more promo than something like low to medium ticket. So where you're at right now and the fact that it starts in like 5-6 days from now is like the most intensive promo period of them all. So usually leading up to like the final week, I do like to space things out so you're giving lots of valuable content that's related to things that are within your program, just to get people warmed up and thinking about that kind of stuff, like those topics. And then as it nears, typically people are going to enroll, like 50% of your people will be in that final week. Like people love to wait until the last minute, and people typically need to hear things 5 to 10 times before they buy. So the thing is, if you're putting it out every 2 days and then somebody doesn't see that one post and maybe they saw another one like a week ago, it might not be enough for them to really remember and think about it. It may be. It really depends on that individual, because how aware are they that they need this thing and how ready are they to take action? So there's people on all different parts of the spectrum. So what I would suggest to maximize like this final week that you have getting ready for it is you don't have to be like balls to the walls doing 5 posts a day, being like, join this thing. But I would do a couple of different things over the next few days. So you've done your challenge already, right? Like you were running something previously.
Excuse me, I'm getting
Okay.
sick. No, I haven't done a challenge. I was going to do something like towards the end of this week, just do like a 2 or 3 day thing, free thing. I did do a free training around this
Cool.
in my private group, I guess about a week or so ago. So I did a mini training, but then I still want to do a free like challenge thing. And I was thinking about, and I don't know if this is a good idea or not, giving away a free spot. I was going to do the training in my group and say, if you're interested, come and hop in the group, and everybody who participates, has a chance to win a free spot or 50% tuition spot, like scholarship thing to it. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. I don't want to be in scarcity mode and like trying to fill the program with people who aren't paying for it. But at the same time, I feel like I want to, I don't know, some kind of motivation for them to join the group and then,
So there's a few ways that you could go with this. Personally, I find if we wait until that final week and then we announce like about a free spot or something, it kind of typically will devalue it a little bit. Because then people might start wondering, like, is there nobody in it? Or I haven't really heard of it yet. Some people might be excited, but you also could then attract not the right people into the program, where they haven't even been following along and they're just like, ooh, free thing. So I don't think you necessarily need to offer an incentive like that. And usually to run a challenge, there's not a right amount of time, but to get people hyped in, because I love to use challenges as a way to also grow your group or grow your list and bring in some new people as well. So to run that and like promote it in some other groups and get people in and hyped up for it, I find you need a little bit more promo time than that. So what I would do is more so focus on the women you already have right now. If you make some posts and you meet some women in other groups and stuff over the week, is that's amazing as well, or you connect on Instagram. But rather than trying to organize like a training and then there's like no real announcement and you just start doing it, I feel like that's just going to add to kind of overwhelm of just trying to get people into the program. So instead, to better leverage the time, I'd focus more on content, just actual posts, and also doing a couple of Facebook Lives. Now, I remember you saying Facebook Lives were not your safety net of like what you're most comfortable doing. So when do you do them in your group right now?
Yes, okay. Every now and then.
Okay.
So they're kind of used to seeing me.
Okay. I think a good stretch for you would be to do one on your personal page as well, because there's probably people that are following on there, and that would be a really powerful way. And I'm never going to tell you have to do something, but it's all about how can we stretch ourselves and show up in different ways. So that's one suggestion, is to do one live on your personal page where you pick something from within your program that you think would be really valuable and do like a training on it. You don't have to make it crazy long either. Like if it's a big stretch just to go live, even 5 or 10 minutes of talking about something so you can keep it focused and really valuable. And then at the end, you can talk about your program. Would be amazing. And then another couple of things you can be doing is basically daily promotion right now. So say you put up 2 posts a day leading up to the program, and you could even pre-create a few of these. You could repurpose some of your old ones. You don't have to go and create 100 new things, but showing up really consistently and at the bottom of almost every single post, talking about the program, like really educating people about it. So some of them might be a really quick, like, PS, my blah, blah, blah program on this is starting in a week, kicking off, doors are closing, however you want to phrase it. Message me if you're interested. You don't have to do like the whole put an emoji below if blah, 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 because it's getting really close. So you kind of want to see like what can you do that's the most effective to leverage your time right now and get those people that are interested and on the fence actually talking with you. Like that's going to be the most powerful thing. And your outreach. So anybody right now that's liking the posts that are related to this, they're commenting on it, message them. And you don't have to message them and say, hey, I saw you liked my post. Do you want to pay me now and join my program? You don't have to approach it like that, but message them and say, hey, like, what was it about it that resonated with you? I appreciate the support. I know you've liked a few of the things. Like, is this something that you're interested in? Like, where are you at with things? Like, just starting a real conversation with them. There's no script in which what you need to say. And like Jesse said, people want to trust you and feel your energy, right? So that's why doing a live would be really powerful for people just to see you and feel you. And you could even do a live as well where you're just talking about and just talking about like what is it really, and just sharing a little bit more about it, and titling the live, my blah 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 program is kicking off in a week, here's what you can expect, something that's really going to hook people, and they're like, oh, like this thing resonates for me, like this is something I could really identify with. But all of your content, just making sure it's targeted, meaning it has something to do with your program, and it's very much value driven. So you're just getting things and people are engaging with it. You can put a little PS, 1 or 2 posts if you want to be more direct, especially if you're doing 2 a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. 1 or 2 of those posts in the next week could be a little bit more direct, like doors are closing soon, 3 spots left for the program, like just really getting people thinking about this program, because somebody might see a few of your value posts and then that one call to action kind of post, and they're like, oh shit, like it's starting in a week, like I gotta message Jessica and like get on this. And obviously sharing in your group as well. So that would be the strategy around it, is consistent targeted content. I'd love to see you do a Facebook Live in your personal, definitely something in your group as well. But I think to add in like a challenge, giving away free spots and all that stuff, that's just going to create like extra kind of stress around the situation for you. And I think it devalues it a little bit. Whereas say when you do your next one, you can almost do it like a scholarship or something else where right from the get-go, there's a challenge and there's a free spot to go to somebody, and people are applying really early on, because it creates a lot of the hype and stuff around the program. And then it's a really empowering situation to give somebody a spot, versus when you're in like that final crunch and then you're doing it, it's like you're not going to feel very good if you just end up getting that one person who joined for free that isn't even a good fit, and then it didn't actually create the hype that you're looking to create around that. So it doesn't mean don't ever do that, but I think because you have like 6 days left, like thinking about that whole simplify amplify theme, so consistent content, targeted, 1 or 2 Facebook Lives, and just playing around with the different kinds of content inside of the Soulmate Attraction course. There is a PDF in there, like even if you don't want or have the time to watch the full training around different types of content, because there's 4 main types, you can go in and even just get the PDF of it just to get the wheels turning for some different types of posting that you could be doing this week.
Awesome. That's all really helpful.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes.
And if you want to, like, this is where the group for us, because some of the women in here would be like your ideal client, plus lots of us are great coaches. So if you want to take a couple of your posts, even if you want to repurpose them, if you're not sure about them, like come and post them in the group and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking of posting later, or here's my post for tomorrow. What do you guys think about the call to action? Like, do you think this is a good post? Like, you can do that inside of the group, and I'll give you some feedback. Other women, some of them can hop in and give you some feedback too.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yay.
That's
Did you say
very helpful.
Good. Did you say there was a two-part question?
No, I mean, it was just that the
Okay.
consistency, like being consistent with all of it.
Does that make sense? Like for you around, like, do you feel clear of what kind of content to create, like topics and stuff?
Yes, yes, I do. I feel really clear about that. I think I feel better just because you're saying, I think that creating this whole challenge, I haven't felt like connected with doing that, so I haven't done it. And I feel like you just gave me the permission that I needed to give myself to not worry about doing that, to
Yeah.
just keep talking to women like I have been and keep posting.
Yeah.
So I feel a lot better about that. Like I'll just keep doing what I'm doing and,
Yeah.
add and stretch a little bit more. So I'll do that.
Yeah, and think too, Jessica, like think about last weekend, I guess it would have been when you had your biggest weekend, like sale day ever. You didn't do a challenge. You didn't offer anything free for those sales to come in. You just connected with people and were showing up and you were excited, right? So if you can drop into that excitement energy and be talking to people, you don't have to send out like 200 messages. It's like quality over quantity and creating content that is super relevant to your program. When you think about like look at your sales page, like what's the promises that you're making, the benefits of it, the main things you're covering, and then think about what kinds of things can you help where people will read it and have what I like to think of like a mini transformation. Like they'll read it and be like, ooh, like I've learned something new. Like that was valuable to me. And then they read the bottom and they're like, oh, like this is just a part of something bigger. Like, oh my God. So always educating, like this is just one piece of something bigger. So they get that piece and they feel like it's valuable. It's not surface level, but they're also realizing that there's still so much more. Like that's kind of the energy you want to bring with the content. I saw
Awesome. That's
I saw
good. That's
Leslie wrote
good.
too. I do a card reading with chats and engagement thrown in with offers, fun and not overly promotion, feels good. I do lives mostly on friends setting just because some creeps join in when it's public. Yeah, me too. I have some where it's like random like East Indian men, like power to them, but they come on and they're like, "You beautiful." I'm like, "Great, thank you." It's just like spamming the feed. Which is great, I guess, for algorithms that there's more people engaging, but maybe not ideal clients. So, yeah, let us know as you make some of these posts in the group, though, how you're going with them and how you're doing as well, because these next 6 days is likely where you're going to get the most of your signups because people wait until the last minute.
Awesome. Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Leslie, too, from yours from before, keep us posted in the group of what comes up with your testimonial reviews, okay? This is one thing too I just want to add with the program and with the coaching. Just like how I've done the lives and there's like some like small assignments built into it, you can expect that, but I'm keeping them small from that sort of stuff because where the magic is going to happen with your homework is on these calls. I'd way rather be talking about what's really going on for you that's applicable for your business and then coming up with what do you need to do and be held accountable to do them than to just blanket statement that you all need to do the same thing. Like that just does not make sense. So you'll notice that there's not going to be a lot of things that is a crossover for everybody to be doing because I don't think that that's always going to be the most effective. So on here is where we'll really determine what is it that you need to be working on so then you're actually moving forward and not just doing something that is really just not applicable to you and your business as well. Okay, so if you're wondering like where's all the homework, like most of it's going to come on here from what's relevant to you or from something you post in the group, and then we'll come up with a suggestion of what you need to be focusing on. So does somebody have their next thing? Anybody who, Jen? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So this is I was really listening when you were talking to Jessica because I feel like where I'm feeling a little stuck right now is around the whole content thing, and like visibility is a really big priority for me right now. And then sort of secondary to that would be like booking discovery calls and going from there. And I feel like, I know you saw my post this morning about my like aha moment. So now I feel like I need to show up online as that person.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like, oh shit, what do I create for content? Because in the back of my head, I'm telling myself like, you need to have a theme. And so I'm stressed about it.
Okay.
And I want, so kind of how I work is like, I almost need to have a plan. Otherwise my day gets completely away from me and I just won't do it. But if I have a plan, I absolutely show up every day.
Yep. Yeah. And this is where having a content plan can be a good thing. For some of us, it feels really limiting. I like to have a balance where I'll go through and I'll pre-make some content, and then I have a bit of an outline, because then that way I have like different styles of content, because sometimes we'll fall into a trap of making all inspirational kind of posts or all this sort of posts, because that's just kind of like what's on our heart, but then we're not really having a good variety of types of content, or we always just want to talk about the same thing. So sometimes that pre-batching could be really good, where you're setting yourself 1 or 2 hours of creating a bunch of the content, because then you'll feel like you have some stuff to be structuring and putting out there. Now, in terms of like the type of content, thinking about the message that you've now refined and knowing that it's around success coach, what are the main kind of services that you want to be offering. I'd love to see that you have a couple of kind of standard styles, like one where you're educating people about what you do. And one of them can be like literally that clear, where it's like why I chose the niche that I've chosen, or like why I work with, like why would you need what I do, basically, where you're going through and it's like educating though, but you're making it very much about them, and talking to like their struggles, like where they want to go, talking about how you fit into that. And it's not even like a pitching kind of post, but saying, I just did a post the other day. I can find it and I'll tag you in it. But in the post in there, I was talking about what you kind of need in a coach. So it was obviously speaking to my ideal client. And it was like, why you need a coach that does this, who believes that, who sees you for this. And then at the very bottom was like such a small call to action of reach out if this resonated. So something like that for yourself, though, where you're really talking to that person, should be a good exercise for you, because you've been getting the clarity around that. But now you know more of who that woman is and where she's at, what she's looking for. And I really want you to create content that talks to them in the sense, I just want to make sure I language this right, where, you're making it very clear, because I know this has been a struggle, that like you're not a VA, you're not hiring on people for people. So really bringing in like the education for people about what it is you do, but always tying it back to them and their results and their transformation. So, if their A to B is that right now, they're giving up time with their family, they're feeling really overwhelmed, they don't know how to hire a team, they don't really know even who they should be hiring or what that would look like for them, and bringing in that leadership aspect too. Just thinking like if that's their point A and point B for them is, running their business more streamlined, being empowered to know how to take that business into the next level, that means more profitability, and really just thinking about their A to B. And their A is going to have several different struggles, pain points, challenges, whatever you want to call them. And then their B is going to have different results. And you could literally make content just based on the A to B. Like if you wanted to be like super simple and okay, like today I'm going to talk about more profitability, but linking it up to what it is you do. Another day you can be talking about their point A and feeling like they're not spending enough time with their family, they're making good money, but they're also doing everything by themselves. So even educating, because I think a lot of people don't even know that they need to do some of these things. So I think that's one of the biggest things for your business is educating people around what they need, and realizing that oftentimes what people need and what people want are two totally different things. So it's like that merging of talking to them about what they want, because that's what's going to stop their scroll. But then in there, educating them about what they need. So creating some different kinds of posts. You could do the same thing I said to Jessica too, and go back if you haven't been on, where I have the different types of post content, because there's ones on there with some tips about storytelling, creating like a how-to and like teaching kind of post, doing one that's like more inspirational. And that's one of the things that I found, because it's almost like how we all have different learning styles. Some of us are more auditory, some of us are more visual. So kind of think of that with your content delivery too, that like some people love stories, some people love the how-to kind of post. So like different things will put you as kind of like that leader authority with different people. So that's why I like to do a bit of a variety as well. Plus it just like shows that you have like some depth and variety to what you're putting out, but it doesn't mean that has to be complicated, right? Like you don't have to come up with 200 different topics. You could literally take the topic of leadership and success, and you could make that into 5 different kinds of posts, right? Like one of them could be your own story or a story of a client. One of those could be something where it's like more direct, talking about how you can help them. One of them could be a how-to. One of them could be like more of like a general like education around like the industry. And inside of I'll find it. I want to say it's inside of the Soulful Sales, but there's one that I've done in there and it talks about hooks as well, and really hooking people with your content in the beginning, because that's one of the most important things. So I'll find those and I'll tag you ladies in them as well, just so you can find them, because you don't have to go through and watch like hours of trainings, but even just to look through like the cheat sheets and even skim the video just to get some ideas for your content as well and get inspired. And then one other thing I'll say about content is one of the easiest things you can do is to go through and pay attention to what kinds of questions people are asking. So if you're able to find that with your ideal clients, whether that's in your group, if it's in somebody else's group, another good thing is when you are having more calls with women, I know that's obviously the goal, which I'll touch on. So when you don't have that many calls booked, it's hard to collect that. But as you have more calls, then to collect the research of like, what are the objections people have? What are the things that they say that they're trying to accomplish? What are their pain points? Like creating your content around that. Like a lot of the things I'll create posts on is like, I just got off a discovery call with somebody and then I'm like super inspired of like, oh yeah, another person's asking about this thing, or we overcame this like on an actual client call. So like no need to reinvent the wheel and like come up with random stuff. Like literally take the things that your ideal people are saying, take it into content. Like the other day on one of my posts, a woman, I was talking about something to do with the coaching and with booking calls, and that people basically ask you to like come into a dark cave, give you no context of why they should get on a call with you or anything. It's just like, would you like to get on a call? And most people are like, yeah, maybe not. Like, what are we going to do on this call? Like, I'm not too sure. It's like asking them to go in this like dark cave and you're like handing them like a chain to like crawl their way into it. Versus if you're like, yeah, I have this cave. It's like got all these cute little fairy lights and there's cookies inside and we're going to have a party. It's going to be good. And people are like, want to come on. And this woman commented though, and everybody's allowed to have her own opinion, but she commented on there about like, this is the problem with the coaching industry. They should just basically be giving free coaching calls, and just like a totally difference of opinion. But I took her thing and wrote out a longer response to it. And then I was like, oh shit, that was really good. Like I'm going to save that for an actual post in the future. So if you're like in people's groups, say you're in the intentional entrepreneur group, somebody asks a great question and then you answer the question and you put a well thought out response, like save that response and create that into a post. Like, it's going to resonate with your ideal people because you literally just had somebody ask it and then you answered it. So just like thinking about like, how can I work smarter, not harder, and like take stuff, if it performs well, reuse it. So I know right now you've been like restructuring a little bit. So you might not have as many posts to repurpose because the messaging might be a little bit off. Maybe they just need to be tweaked. But as you create new content, really feeling into, okay, if I had a new client, we just got on our first call together, we're going to work together for X amount of months. What are the kinds of things that I'd be teaching her? What would I be talking to her about? Because that's the kind of content that you want to be putting out there. And then it's just like the actual structure of them is where that cheat sheet would be really good, of just making sure they don't all end up like one style. And then and then scheduling wise, one post a day is amazing. Like if you're in a really big like launch push, I like to do 2, like 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, just because people are online at different times of the day and Facebook algorithms are very weird. I don't know if you guys have found that with the algorithms lately, like your posts will continue to get traction a lot longer than they used to. So like you'll put a post up and it's like people will see it like 24 hours later. Like it's not chronological anymore. So there's like really no rhyme or reason to it. So that's why if I'm in a big push period, I put 2 up. But I'd way rather see you guys put up 1 really good post than think you have to be like this content producing machine and putting out like 2, 3 posts a day just for the sake of doing it either. So just finding that sweet spot, and even if you're doing posts 5 days a week, 1 to 2 times a day, like that's great. Like that's 10 posts a week that people are going to be seeing. And then really from there, like I've said to Jessica, like transitioning that into messaging and connecting with those people as well. Doing a variety of different mediums, like some live trainings. And if you want to create a schedule for yourself, even if you haven't pre-made the content, just like to finish off that thought around that, is to, whether you want to create a spreadsheet, just an old-fashioned piece of paper, but map it out like a week or two in advance of just like what are the subjects that you're going to talk about. Like even if you haven't had a chance to pre-make the content, that's where I'm at right now. I have a few pre-made things and I save things to repurpose. But in terms of new things, I have a bunch of notes of like things that I still need to finish turning into content. But I'll just go through them and be like, okay, so Tuesday I'm going to talk about visibility. Wednesday I'm going to talk about this. And then sometimes I already have the content.
How much TV? Come on.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like I have a good place to start, and now.
Yeah. And I would say like pick 1 to 2 weeks of picking out your subjects, just seeing what works well, like what's performing, and then save the things that are so you can repurpose them. So then that way, as you continue to build up your content like library, so to speak, you'll always make some new content because you'll find new ideas and new things that are relevant, but you'll have stuff that's saved. So if you're feeling uninspired or you're busy with the family, you can still throw something up, because like in the day and age that we speak in, like our energy and our vibration and our own well-being is like the number one thing. But then still finding that kind of balance between the fact that like it's very noisy online, and like if we're not consistent, it does make it harder. It doesn't mean you can't build your business. Like anybody can do anything, but like that's like the truth bomb of it is like if we're all over the place and sometimes we show up and sometimes we don't, like people just move on and they just kind of forget. So it's finding like how can I show up consistently without feeling like I have to be online all of the time, and then being able to put that message out there that's going to resonate with people. And I know you mentioned visibility too. I had this like massive breakthrough when I was driving yesterday, so I'm going to create a post about visibility today. But just to spiral off what I'm going to say in this post is thinking about like what is visibility, why is it important, and like how do we do more of it, and like, well, what is it? I think a lot of people actually get really confused about what does that actually mean. Like it sounds so like general, like more visibility. You know, more visibility doesn't mean like that you're just posting in 200 groups, or that it doesn't mean that you have 200 likes on things. Like it's not really measured by that. Visibility to me is actually really simple. It's just getting visible in front of the people that you know and doing it in a bigger and bigger way. Like the ecosystem is always growing as a side effect of getting more visible. So that's kind of like the what. And then the how around it, this is where I had the breakthrough too, where I think a lot of the time we think it goes from like 0 to 100, you know, because people are measuring it by how many likes and stuff they have. But visibility is almost like when you think about income producing activities. So think about like visibility producing activities, meaning you can pick 5 things a day that are visibility growing activities that are super simple. It could be like sending out an email to your list, doing a Facebook Live, creating Facebook posts, doing an Instagram story, and repurposing a post into a group. Like that's 5 visibility activities that if you were being effective and not getting distracted could take 30 minutes, right? So it's like, how can you pull things that are visibility producing and do them consistently, and just start to think, you know, and as your email list grows, guys, and like as, you know, you have money for ads, like the options of things you can be doing grows. But even right now, like even if you're not putting budget into ads, even if your email list isn't huge, yeah, Kelsey said to list those. Let me type them. So these, I'm like, okay, I just pulled that out of my head. So email list, Instagram story, what all did I say? Facebook Live, posting in your group, and posting into other people's groups. And there's like 100 other things. Like I will create a list at some point for you guys with like a checklist around different activities. But I mean, I'm trying to send it to Andrea. Hold on. There, that should have gone into the group. But you know, it could be anything. It can be lives, it can be ads, this can be going onto Instagram and engaging in different influencers accounts. This can be going in and engaging on hashtags. This can be making a new pin, a new blog. Like there's so many things. So I'll create an actual list for you guys around it so you can make some notes, but just to get you guys thinking, right? Like it isn't just doing a Facebook post. Like there's so many things that you can be doing. And to me, visibility is like people feeling like they're seeing you everywhere, which is not annoying for them. But it's like, because they need to see you everywhere, it's like they'll see an email from you and you don't have to spam them, but like maybe once a week you send out an email And then they hop on Facebook and you're getting visible, people are engaging, so they open Facebook and you're like the top of their feed. And they're like, oh yeah, like there's that Fran again. Oh yeah. And then they go in and they're in a Facebook group and they see Fran again. And then they go onto Instagram and, oh, there's Fran's post. And it's not like they're annoyed, like, oh my God, it's Fran again. Obviously they're not they're not following Fran if they don't like Fran. But it's like people need to see Fran's messages over and over. They need to see her in multiple places for that to really like sink in and land. And like that also starts to raise up the authority and the positioning and the leadership as well, where they're like, holy shit, how is this Fran girl like everywhere? Sorry, I keep swearing, Samantha. I'm sorry. I keep accidentally swearing. And I catch myself afterwards. But does that make sense around visibility and give you guys some clarity around like visibility producing activities?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. These are good. Okay, good. I'm glad they're not paying attention, Sam. I can't even help it. Yeah, and Fran just suggested Evernote as well. So this is a really good thing you guys can get for free. There's a paid version as well, but I love using that. It's basically a website that you can be getting, like a little app. You can even add it and it creates like a little button on your home screen. And in there you can save posts. You can also screenshot things. So if, don't copy other people's stuff, but if you go in and you really like their sales page or you really like what they're talking about and you don't want to forget about it, maybe they end up deleting it and then you never get to go back to see what it is you liked about it, screenshot it and save it into your Evernote. It's like your own swipe file for ideas and inspiration and things. And that's one other idea around your content too, ladies, is if you're feeling a little bit stuck, think about who does things somewhat similar to what you do, or who has an audience somewhat similar to what you do, and don't go copy their stuff, but like go to their profile. What are they talking about? What are people engaging about? And just even simply from going to their thing and being like, that's a great subject, rather than like copying their text and pasting it onto yours and like tweaking it to make it your own, which is just like not cool. Don't do that. But like look at their topic and then go, what could I write about that topic? Like, what's my perspective around this? It's like the whole joining into the conversation energy that people will see that like, oh, this is a hot subject. I've seen like 3 different women, like, what's Jesse's opinion about this? Like, they want to know. So that's another idea as well of just paying attention to like, what are other people that are kind of in the same niche, like that what you're doing, that then you can talk about those things. And if you're feeling a little stuck of like what subjects as well to create.
Awesome.
Does that feel like a good amount? Do you feel more overwhelmed now, or do you feel clear of like what to be doing around your content?
No, I don't feel overwhelmed. No,
Okay.
I feel like I've got like good direction and a place to start and then go from there.
Okay. And same thing as Jess too, like come and post in the group and share with us if you have, a post idea, or if you've made an outline, like tell us and get our feedback on it as well. Okay. So that's your homework, is to work on either pre-making it or at least pre-scheduling it, meaning like what topics are going to be like for the next week or 2, and then share that with us.
Okay.
Okay. Who wants to go next? Hey, Sam. Yep.
I'll go before my kids get too crazy here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So my question, actually kind of building off the whole posting thing, is with my social media and my online marketing, I'm kind of interested in how much of me personally I should bring into the marketing as opposed to like business type posts. So because like I wanted to be super clear that I'm not like a blogger or a public figure. I am a business and I'm an online store, and but my customers are also women who are leading more conscious lifestyles and who care more about the connection and likely about the person behind the business. So I do have a real mix of like business type posts, what I sell, educational type posts, but I do a lot of like outfits of the day and my own personal journey and why I created the business. So I'm just like curious if there's like a good ratio or a good like way that I can keep it really clear and professional and just like really clear that it's a business and not my own personal account, if that makes sense.
Definitely. I would say, and this is something I've read a lot and I can just feel for 2019, people care more and more and more about the person behind the business. Like that is what differentiates from all the other businesses, no matter how niche down it is. Like even if you were the only conscious clothing type company in Canada, like people still want to know who you are and they want to know your story. Like story is like what sells and really differentiates you from other businesses, and it just creates that like trust and emotional connection around that for the buyer. So I mean, in terms of a ratio, personally I would say something in the realm of like maybe about 30%, like 30% you bringing in your story and who you are as a human and your thoughts, your opinions, and then bringing in like 70% could be a bit of a mix. You know, some of those might be strictly here's a new product or like outfit of the day. Some of them are what you're, like you said, you're already doing, where it's more of like an educational, you know, and then driving them into that. So I think that would be a good ratio of almost like 30 30 30, so that it feels like people really are having that from you. I don't think it has to be 50+% where like every post is your story, you know, but really like in a regular day, like in a regular, let's say like in a week, if you had a daily post that went out, like maybe 2 of those are really talking about like the woman behind the brand or like what inspired you to start this. You know, as everybody on here, I feel like in some level could be your ideal client of sorts, because we all are pretty heart-centered. Like what do you guys think a ratio would be that you would want to see if you were purchasing from Sam's store? Like just let us know in the comments, or if you can't comment, just unmute yourself and tell us, because I'm thinking about 30 30 30. So I know Leslie said she definitely would want to know more about your energy and passion and purpose. Kelsey agrees. Yeah. Jesse 100%. What do you guys think? Anybody else?
I can't type. Is it okay if I just talk?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know for the places that I'm like super fans of, I want to hear from them almost like every day. Like, tell me what you're up to, like today, even if it's just small or something in your IG story. It really builds that connection. And then when you do post something, it's like, yeah, of course I'm going to buy it. But I think we all know that. But yeah, story is definitely huge. I absolutely agree with that. And I love to hear about like my favorite stores, especially like the boutique clothing stores where I buy my kids stuff. Like I'm checking in with those ladies like all the time, and I love hearing about their own like mothering journey.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Does anybody else have anything to add?
Yeah, hang on, buddy.
Jen says 50, half is good. Yeah, I honestly don't think there's too much sharing you. Your ideal client wants to be so excited to see you as much as possible. I think people want to buy from people that are embodied in what they do. So even sharing how you're being conscious and sacred. Yeah, I feel like, Sam, this might be a bit of a stretch for you, because I know you said like to really be seen and stuff is you kind of like, from what I've gathered, being kind of behind the scenes.
I am, but that's where maybe I need to just challenge myself more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In order to build a business.
So to stretch yourself this week, because we've gotten a lot of feedback of like 50, 50, 50, 50.
Yeah.
You know, Fran said she's never used these kind of products, so she'd want to know about why it's ethical, what they're made of. Yeah. As for me, really motivational to buy those. So I think for you, a good stretch for this next, you know, let's say for the rest of January is, why don't you aim for feeling like you're at about a 50-50, you know, and 50-50 doesn't mean every single post. 50-50 might mean your stories, you know, the other things that are intertwined, but really making that a pretty big part of the business, like more so than it has been.
For sure. That sounds like a good goal.
Okay. So, yeah, and if you're struggling on like the storytelling side of things, I was just reading what Kelsey wrote. There's a few trainings I've done on that too, so I can always send them to you. So just let me know if you're feeling stuck, and I can send them to give you some ideas around that. I know we've talked a little bit about it, but I want you to feel like you're set up for success. So yeah, aiming for 50-50 for the rest of January, and then let's see how that goes. And have you set up an accountability person yet?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so part of your homework then is with your accountability person, you have them give you the feedback, and you can check in with the group as a whole, but get feedback from them about the stories and the frequency, okay?
Perfect.
Okay.
Sounds awesome.
Cool. I love her little rainbow shirt. She's just so cute. Who wants to go next? Yeah. Hey.
Hi. So, I have a couple things. My one is like, what do you think are the best like challenges, like free challenges? Do you think it's better to have like a handout or actually like a 5-day thing? Or like, I've done like a 21 day, just too much,
Same.
obviously. But
My
like,
first
what?
challenge I ever did was a 21-day manifestation challenge, and oh my God, it was rough. Like, kudos to the women that followed through for the 21 days, but like, yeah, I'm all about manifesting, but 21 days, like, it's a long commitment. So good on you.
Yeah, I felt like, yeah, the 21 days was just like, and I feel like when it's 21 days, people like aren't 100% invested if they're not monetarily invested in a way.
Yeah.
So that like created some, but anyway, so what is the best challenges that you guys or, you, Jenna, have found have brought in the most people and led to the most leads and really been the most influential in creating that, relationship?
Yeah. If anybody has challenges that you've had a lot of success with, let us know in the comments, or if you need to unmute yourself, and I'll dive into it first. So the first thing I always ask myself, and I always tell everybody to ask themselves, is what's the purpose? First off, when you're designing it, is it for list growth or growing your group? Is it because you want to pitch something at the end? And you can have multi-purpose things. Like most of my challenges, my main purpose behind them, except for like a few different ones, but most of them have been to grow my group, grow my list, and to pitch something that I have coming up at the end. So like create the excitement and momentum, because you can kind of multi-do those. But sometimes people are like literally just creating their Facebook group, so they want to grow it and they're not pitching anything. Or sometimes people just want to start booking more calls. So you don't always have to have something you're pitching like a program at the end. So that's the first thing I'd say is, what would you say is the purpose behind doing like the next thing that you'd want to do? Like, would it be for private coaching, for a next group program, for list growth? Have you thought about what your kind of next area is?
Yeah, probably for like one-on-one, like maybe a
Okay.
little bit more intensive coaching.
Okay, so probably offering a call at the end. So
Okay.
I would say like my favorite style of challenge is either 3 days or 5 days. I find anything longer than 5 days for a free challenge, people just kind of check out. Under like 1 or 2 days is basically just like a video kind of training. So it's not very long, but I like 5. 3 is like pretty short. However, depending on who your audience is, 3 might be a great number if they don't have a very high attention span or they're really busy. But I find with 5, it's like you can cover a lot, but I like to do like very snackable content, so it's like what I would cover maybe in 3 days, I've actually stretched out into 5 days, where it could be like kind of a kickoff day, 3 days of like meaty content, and then the final day of like bringing it all together and all that sort of stuff. Or if you have like 5 days of content and you don't need like a kickoff wrap up kind of day is fine too. But 5 days typically seems to be the sweet spot where you can cover a lot, but you can space it out so the actual trainings are pretty short. And like delivery wise, I love doing them in a Facebook group, because then you, number one, have people joining your Facebook group, creates engagement in the Facebook group. It really creates like that community feel of people engaging and wanting to be hanging out in there. And then like, the promotion, and like we could talk if you want some ideas how to get people into the challenge and all of that. But in terms of style of challenge, with that, I like to do what I call like fragmenting, where it's even what I talk about with the content, where if you think about, say for your private coaching, and you think about, like I was saying to Jen, like if you had a brand new person, like what are the main things that you're going to work with them on for those X amount of months, and then go, okay, great. So you could either take all of those things, like say there's 5 main areas, then you could just briefly cover like a mini thing within those. But I do find that sometimes when we do that, people almost feel like, oh, okay, I have so much to run with now. I'm just going to like drive my own thing and be off on my own for a while. I'll hit you up like when I'm ready, which is fine. However, I feel like when you go and take something where you fragmented, like say you have your like 4 or 5 like core areas that you talk about, choose one of them and then really educate people around that area. You don't have to solve everything for them, but really give them a transformation But then what you're doing throughout the entire time is like educating how this is, again, just like that one piece of something bigger. So that way at the end you can talk about, it makes it a very easy pitch too. That is like very like casual, but create some urgency for them of getting to know them throughout the week and like what are their struggles and what are those things. And then at the end of it, really talking about, I usually do day 4 and day 5. I open it up and talk to them on day 4 and talk about what I'm going to be offering, or I say, I'd love to invite those of you who are interested to go deeper and have a call with me, make it very results focused, and say you only have like X amount of spots that you've opened this month for these calls. So if people know that this is something that they'd like to talk to you more about, like they can reach out or they can use the link, they can book it. So it kind of just like creates almost like that kind of early bird kind of feeling of like get in and grab a spot now. And then on day 5 is when you kind of do the full pitch around it, where you're really talking about what you do in your private package, like who this is for, who do you work with, and then from there encourage them to book a call with you. And I would not go too much into logistics. Whenever you're pitching like anything from a program to your private coaching, like don't talk about how many calls they get and how much it costs. Like people just want to know like whether or not they're going to get their results. So just make it very results focused, and then talk. And I love telling people, it's like that whole idea of like getting on a call and them not feeling like they're getting in this dark cave to like go spelunking and not knowing what's coming next. So give them some context of the call, and people feel really safe to come on. I find when you say something along the lines of, when you get on this call, we're going to talk about your unique stuff and go so much deeper than we did in this program or in this challenge. And then from there, I can give you some recommendations of how to get fully to where you want to go. And if I can help support you, I'll tell you how. And if I can't, I'll point you in the right direction. And people come on and then they're very much past that mindset of like, oh my God, am I going to come on and is she going to be selling to me? Now I have to say no, like coming up with 200 objections. Like they come on and their heart's a lot more open, like just ready to be talking and dropping in with you, as opposed to like story creating like what you might be trying to sell them into and how they can't afford it. So that would be a really good tip as well around the challenge. And yeah, so Facebook, I love it. People love lives, like just statistically, that's the way our like society is moving. So people will typically engage better, as opposed to say, some people will do ones where they'll email out content for 5 days, but I find that doesn't really create the community aspect and that connection to you. So it's like, then you have to pre-make anything. It's like you go live for your 3 or 5 days, do your like 10 minutes of training, and then even just a really simple post. Like you don't even have to make a worksheet or anything, but just a engagement driving post where you can get market research from the people that are engaging. You'll see who's actually showing up beyond just watching the video, and just have them do something super simple. Like don't make it like time consuming, but if the video is about soul work, like have something on there where they're defining for themselves what that means, or keeping it to about 15 minutes a day for them to watch a live, do some sort of engagement type activity. And the engagement activity, like there's so many creative ways you could go with that. Like you could have your live, and then in the live be like, once you've watched this, you have 24 hours to come live and share your thing. Like you don't even have to create a post. But having some structure, but very, very results focused, and a small area, like fragmented area. And then you can always talk about how, yeah, like this is a part of the bigger thing, Like that's what you always want to keep getting people thinking about.
Yes. Okay.
Does that make sense?
I love that. I think that that's like really great, because I've done like, I've given away like meditations and stuff like that, but not really, and I have done the 21-day challenge, but it was fine, but it was disastrous for me. Like people were engaging, but I just felt like it wasn't good.
Yeah.
I have another question kind of is like, do you think a business page is important?
This is a good question.
Business page. I just feel like there's so much shit, like not like shit. I mean, I'm not like being like negative about it, but like, it's like, have this. It's like, what's really important? Because I feel like I waste time, and like, I just want to know like strategically. Facebook Lives, I know, are always worth my time. Like that's where I get all of my interaction. Like I know that's great. But I just want to have more like, is a business page good?
Yeah. So 2 things. So from the challenge thing, just a thought I had as you were switching into the Facebook business page is The thing I love about challenges too, and like Facebook Lives, as opposed to say like giving out a meditation, and I still use other freebies and PDFs. Like it doesn't mean this is like your only freebie, but the thing I like is when you have something that you want to sell and then you run, say, a challenge, is it shows you who's engaging like now, like who's actually interested in showing up. Like clearly they're interested if they're showing up for your challenge, that those are really warm leads, versus if somebody downloads a meditation, like you don't know if they listen to it, you don't know if they see you as more, you know what I mean? So like this is one of the hottest ways to, not hottest, but you know what I mean? Like to really see who's interested in the now, and who's actually more in the committed rather than the interested realm. And then Facebook business pages, in simplest terms, they're really useless. The only reason that I still have one, and I still suggest that everybody has one, is not to run your account off of, you know, like not for engagement and for selling. Basically, there's only two benefits to it, is to collect testimonials for social proof and to run ads. Okay. So the reason I still suggest having one is there may be a time in the future where for like, say, list growth, you want to do like a low campaign ad, like even later in this program when we get some training on it. So say you have like some different freebies, or even you're going to run a challenge. So we just want to promote it a little bit to some cold traffic to grow your group as an example. You have to run it off the business page. So it'll look good for the business page to have one, basically, because otherwise you would just have to create one. And then it's like this brand new page and people are like, who is this person? So I spend like no time on my business page. I basically like once or twice a week will just like take a post that I've already put up and then just post it on there. So if somebody like found me off of a page and they're like, oh, like what's this? They're like, it doesn't look dead. It doesn't look like I don't ever go on it and that I'm not actually running this business anymore. But I really don't put like any time or energy. It's just like a few repurposed things. I collect testimonials on there though, just for social proof of people being like, oh, this is like a real person. Now, with that being said, with testimonials and stuff, it's not like the make or break, because people can just like handwrite you out ones or video ones that use in other places. Like I had something happen this week that luckily it got taken down. But if it was taken up, I probably would have just switched off testimonials, which would have been a shame because I have like 40 on there, which looks really good if somebody doesn't know me and they come on. But we have this like crazy ex-friend who is like a year and a half ago was like giving us death threats and stuff. And like long story short, found my business page and tried to sabotage it like a week ago. And actually Rayanne got the notification. He like went and put sad face emojis on everybody's review for me, all my 5-star reviews, and then left me a 0-star review, which like dropped the rating. So I was like, oh my God, like now all of this like work for nothing. That's why it's like, don't put too much energy into your business page, because that's like not your only source of having reviews. Like that was super crap when that happened, but some of us reported as spam and it got taken off. So it's like back to normal. But you know, like stuff could happen. Like you could have like a loose cannon that like ruins it. So I say collect it. And if somebody's giving you a review, why not have them put it on there, but don't put like too much energy. But like the real benefit is if you want to run ads. So I say like it's worth a half an hour of optimizing it, you know, making sure it reflects your message, what you're up to, your website. But like I don't do any like lives off of it or anything like that. It's strictly just for when I want to run ads. So I say have one, but don't put any energy into it in terms of like daily updates and stuff, because Facebook wants us to pay to boost the post, to put it in front of people. So our personal is the best way to go. Bye, Leslie. Leslie's hopping off. So yeah, like they just want us to pay to get it in front of people, whereas our personal is like for friends and family. But most of us aren't just like putting like what they really punish you for on the personal pages is links, like links to your website, like external. Like they don't want anybody to get off of Facebook. They just want us to be like Facebook zombies all day. So they don't want us to leave Facebook. So that's where you'll get like more so less visibility and traction on your personals if you share a lot of links leading to other things. So it's better to like have people drop a comment or message you or put an emoji and then you message them the link to your stuff. I still do occasionally put a link up, but just something to be aware of, that generally speaking, like it will show it to less people. And if you put links all of the time, not saying you guys do, but if you do, that's where your account can get flagged. And then it'll see it as like you're doing business on it. And then you could end up with like a frozen personal account, which would be not cool. So it's just kind of finding that of like going with valuable content, but really for like the driving the engagement and the private messaging factor, less so like, here, click my sales page, because like that's where you could run into issues, because some people were like, don't ever use a personal page for business because, you know, you'll get banned or whatever. And like, you won't if you're just creating valuable content and putting it out there, versus if you're like, you know, say, I mean, I love network marketing, so it's nothing not network marketing, but if somebody's putting like a buy one, get one free shake thing with a link to their thing every day, like you'll probably get banned at some point because people will report it. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Okay.
That's good.
Did you say you had another question?
I mean, we have our call this week, so I don't want to like go too far into it. I guess the only one question with like my movement message is, I'm always worried that I'm pushing people away. And so like, I know like that we've kind of had this conversation where it's like, you know, but it's like my like expanding consciousness and moving into the highest vibration, I feel like is slightly like above this. I don't want this to like come off like, but I feel like it's above some people that are like, not like, they're like, what does that even mean? You know, or like, what does she really mean like that? So I just wanted like just some input on like, because I also don't want to work with like victim mentality people. So I don't want to go like to that scale of things, but I don't want to go above the heads of other people either. Like, so I'm kind of in that like in between where like I want to work with the stuck, you know, but I don't want to work on like just self-love. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's really good, but I don't know if it's like pushing people away.
So does your ideal person, like, do you think they're familiar? Like, do you think that they know that that's where they want to go? Like, where are they currently?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're like the person who's like into spirituality and like intuition and like understands like, you know, energy and like the chakras, but they just need like structured support in like that spiritual awakening, or like increasing that consciousness to like remove, you know, so much self-judgment and self-doubt and all of those things, and moving past that step.
So I think one of the most valuable things that you can do, because number one, we do want to be a little bit polarizing. Like there's going to be people that read your stuff. Like an example of that is when I decided to use the term conscious female entrepreneurs. I was like, oh, like are some people who would be great clients going to read conscious and be like, well, I'm not conscious enough, or did they think that means like pretentious, or like what does that mean? So I kind of like battled with that, and I was like, no, I feel like after I sat with it, I was like, my ideal clients are going to know what that term means, and they're going to identify with it. So like that's one thing of just realizing that some people are going to read it and they're going to be turned off by it, and that's okay, because then they're probably not your person. But we still want to be clear. So I think one of the best things that you can be doing is to educate people. Like think of like where they're at now and they're struggling about this and they want to go here, and creating lots of content like in your lives, in your posts, where you're really educating them about that shift. And using, I always say, like, if you don't want to work with like broke, stuck, lost people, and you know what, like we all go through that. So like we might be working with somebody who say identifies with feeling lost, you know, or maybe they are stuck right now, but it's like if we use too much of that languaging and like our copy and stuff, like you're always going to attract a bunch of people that are like, I'm stuck, I'm broke, like, and they're like energy vampires, and they're like, help me. Versus if you're saying like transformation ready, if you are, you know, using like a lot more empowering language, you can still say like, you know, you felt like a little bit lost, but you know you're ready to blah, blah, blah. Or it can be a little bit overwhelming in the spiritual world, all of the different things. So you are really looking for like some more structured support around this. So creating it in like that very empowering sense for people that can identify that they are transformational ready, versus the people that are, I remember one time, I'll see if I can find it and share with you guys, I made a pyramid. And when I was doing my spiritual life coachy type program, the Pathway to Living in Your Full Potential, and the bottom, I made like this like 4-tier pyramid. And at the bottom was like the zeros. And it's like, everybody is still a worthy, amazing human. But like the zero, like the bottom of the pyramid were the people that are like stuck, broke, lost, but they have no desire or motivation or willingness to change that. You know, like they're the people that are just 100% victim mindset. Like they're identifying with that. They're not ready to pull themselves out of that. And then there's like the ones who are still kind of stuck, lost, and broke, but like they're actively like trying to seek solutions and get themselves out of that state. So I feel like, you know, in all of our business models, like there's always going to be those kind of zeros that are at the bottom that just they're in their own shit. Like they're just not ready to change it yet. So those aren't the people that we're speaking to. Like they're never going to be ready like right now for our thing. Maybe in 5 years, like maybe after following our content and they have some shifts, but like those aren't the people that are going to circulate into the program and the coaching right now. So kind of just like not worrying too much about the zeros, and then thinking like the ones, the twos, and the threes are kind of those people that are in that mid range for all of our businesses where they're not quite where they want to go. You know, like the ones are like ready, but they have no tools to get there. The twos have gotten there a little bit, but they still need more support. And like the threes are like pretty close, like they're on the cusp, but they need some more. And then the fours are like also not really our ideal client because it's like they're at the same level, like they're already there. You know, there's probably, or they feel like they're already there, like maybe they're know-it-all. So kind of thinking for your own businesses, like what is your 1, 2, and 3 like on that pyramid? That is like the range, because those are the people, right? Because they want to shift from an A to a B, and like that's what you guys are doing as coaches, is helping them go from the A to the B. I'll find that pyramid just to give you guys some context of that.
Yeah,
I'll share it in the group. But that's what I'm kind of thinking for yours with your languaging and your content, is like think for your own business. And you might even want to make your own little pyramid and like sticky note it to your wall. So whenever you're creating stuff, like rather than like having your ideal client avatar of like, okay, her name is Sally and she's 33 and she lives in Wisconsin. Like, no, it's like looking at your pyramid and being like, would this content resonate with somebody in that mid-range? And then, yeah, okay, proceed. Versus if you look at it and you're like, I feel like this is like really speaking to like a 0 or a 4. Like, is that actually who I'm really trying to call in right now? That's the main thing. And I guarantee you, for all of you, like using words like ready, transformation, you know, success, like driven, like those are the kinds of words that are going to attract in more of those kinds of people versus stuck, lost, hopeless, you know, those kinds of languaging. Like at one point I was running my program. I'm like, if you're stuck, if you're lost, if you're broke, if you're disempowered, I will save you. You know, it was like literally my copy. And so like everybody was like, help. And it was just not really good. And the people in the program didn't do the work. So thinking about that for your stuff too, of like, there's going to be people that will read it and they're like, I don't even know what that means. Like, well, they're not your person. Like if they don't even have like a general idea of spirituality, they're not going to be ready.
Yeah, no, that's so helpful, because I think that like that's what I'm ready to step into, is that into the 2s and the 3s, you know. And yeah. I mean, but like I'm like that everybody needs it, but it's like the 2s and the 3s are the people who are actually going to come in and get the transformation and really do the work. And that's who like I want to touch. And
yeah, and like the 0 to 1s, those are the people that you get to nurture with your content, you know, because a lot of us are very much like, I want to help everybody and we don't want to leave anybody behind, or, you know, like not help support them. But like, that's what your content gets to do. It gets to nurture them until they are a 2 or a 3. Like, that's why you give valuable content to boost them up to that next level. And for some people, that's like one breakthrough and they're like, boop, I've up leveled. And some people like needs to see it for like months, but that's like the power of doing that really consistently in your content. So I'm glad that this is helpful. Andrea's listening in. Kelsey, I don't know if you saw what she wrote, but that's a good question. What universal transformation do your clients go through by raising to their highest vibration, and how does the experience of their lives change by that happening, right? So always thinking about that result for people, and just realizing that like as leaders, there has to be some polarity, and sometimes it's like extreme polarity. You know, like if we share, which I don't usually, but if you're sharing like political views or like certain things like that, and you'll notice you share something and like your friends list dwindles a little bit, kind of cleans itself up, because some people are like, I don't agree with that. But you don't have to be extreme polarizing, but just bringing in like mild polarizing where you really are sharing your opinion or using languaging that like may turn some people off or they may not get it. But that's also going to strengthen that relationship with the people who do get it, where they're like, ooh, she speaks my language. So
yeah, perfect. I love that.
Cool. And be clear, not clever, guys. Always clear, not clever. I was just reading one woman's post, and hopefully you guys don't have her as friends and then you know who I'm speaking about. But I read her message a week or two ago, and she was talking about how she helps apprehensive renegade entrepreneurs. And I read that and I was just like, what even is that? Like, why? Like, who wants to be an apprehensive entrepreneur? Like, that doesn't seem like a very like nice term to be using. Like apprehensive to me seems like very fearful and like timid, and then renegade. I'm like, I was like, I'm educated, but like, what does that even mean? Like, what's the context? Like, I think people would read that and like skim past it. So always thinking too, like the context of what you're sharing, who it's actually for, and that it's clear to the people that are reading it, versus if they read that and then it's like, maybe I could have been her ideal client, but I read that and I was like, now I feel kind of stupid because I don't even know what you mean by that. So I'm like, well, now I'm Googling like what things mean and stuff. So like always just keeping it to be as clear as possible.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Yay. You're welcome. Does anybody else have anything? Fran, Andrea, Kelsey? Anything else from Jessica or Jen? Fran, are you good right now? You're working through your homework that we talked about? Okay. When that's ready, we'll create some more steps. So just keep us posted in the group. Has everybody on here found themselves a buddy / did you want a buddy? How are we doing with that? Fran has found a buddy. Jessica's found a buddy. Jesse, did you ask for a buddy? Have you found a buddy? You've posted? Okay. Jen, did you find a buddy? Not yet. Okay, so Kelsey's asked Sam. So with the buddy stuff, I'll go back through the thread. If you have found a buddy, can you just edit your post and just put on there that you have found a buddy? I want to see who does not have a buddy yet. Because some people are like PMing, some people are in the thread, but I just want to see who has not buddied up yet. Like Sam and Jen, like you guys could be a good fit if you haven't buddied up yet, I think actually. But go through and see who has not buddied up yet. You guys can always make pods of 3, but go ahead and just connect. But once you have confirmed, just update it so I can see who does and does not have a buddy. And then Andrea has a question. I run a free group that was for the purpose of teaching moms and self-love, but I'm kind of off that path now. Do I continue the group? Do I change the name and dynamic? Okay, awesome. And there's a pod. So Rayanne, Cheryl, and Jessica are a pod. Perfect. The happy mom movement. I love that. Yeah, when you guys create your partners or your pods, create a fun name. I love that. Okay, and Fran is with Andrea. Okay, cool. And then Andrea, to your question, I personally would probably just keep the group because I think some of the women that are in there could be your ideal clients, and the ones that aren't will weed themselves out. So if you change the name, you change your banner, the subject description of it, and then you start talking about stuff, the ones who are like, oh yeah, like this is actually really valuable to me, like they'll stay, and the ones that haven't aren't. Like, how big is the group right now? Like, and when was the last, like, is there still stuff going on in there? I think is another question. Yeah, I would probably keep it, to be honest. I would just revamp it, restructure it, and then do a post in there updating, like, hey ladies, as things have evolved, I'm really changing up the theme of this community. This is what we're all going to be about. And that's okay. You can revive a group. There's lots of times where people will leave their group for a while and then come back. But out of those 350 people, like, what if 10% or 20% of those people are your ideal person? And then what you can always do as well, if you have people that haven't engaged, like, because you can see with your analytics, then you can always go through and clean it up. Like my Sacred She Sisterhood group would probably be like 10,000 right now, but I regularly, like once a month, I go in and I delete people that haven't engaged like in months that aren't in there. So I would personally keep the group, just change the theme of it, make a post so people know that you're changing the theme of it, and put that up to the pin post up at the top. And then see, but go in and clean it out after a while, because it's better to have 35 engaged women in there than 350 non-engaged women. So if there's, a couple weeks in or a month, just go ahead and just delete people that are not showing up in the group or that are not ideal people of this community that you're cultivating. Like nobody's even going to notice. Everybody's in 100 groups. So if they're not engaging and they don't want to participate, then they're not going to notice that they've been removed. So you don't have to like tell them that you're removing them. Just go through and do a cleanup, and then focus more on like bringing in fresh energy of new people coming into the group. Yeah, don't worry about the big numbers. Quality over quantity always. Like, I mean, like look at I'm still working on the case study for this launch, but I mean, I didn't even send out an email, right? Like and my email list, like I'm just migrating everything to Kartra, and I think my email list at one point was like 5,000. I've cleaned it down to everybody that wasn't engaging, and I think it's like 800 people now. Like, and I haven't even sent an email right now because I've been restructuring. Like it's really not about the numbers for your business stuff. It's about the quality of the people that come on as well. How can you tell or remember who has engaged lots or haven't? Yeah, so with your group, if you go into your analytics, and if you guys can't find this or you're not sure, let me know, and I can always do like a mini video just screen sharing to show you guys, and I'll post it up into the group. But yeah, you literally just go into your group analytics and it will show you if people are not engaging at all. It'll also show you who are like the top people engaging in your group, and then you can like literally just go through because it'll show your members list and you can just hit remove. So you can do that. So that's what I do. Focus on the name that you're going to change it to, focus on the theme, make a post in there, pin it up, and just start going with it. Like literally just start showing up, and the people who are meant to be there will be excited. And the people who aren't meant to be there will clean themselves up / you'll clean them up. But you can just really focus now on like the new energy of the group. And then what else? I just saw, so Kelsey, and Jess, so let's talk about emails for a moment while we're on here. This is something I will do some more training with some different strategies, but just because this is coming up right now in the comments. Mixed thoughts around email marketing. Number one, yes, I do think all of you should have an email list or that you should start one. But with that being said, email marketing is something that's like really, really shifting. Like before, and I know we all subscribe to them, and it's like you opt in for the freebie, and then you get the freebie, and then you get like a 17-part epiphany story, and then a whole bunch of pitching, and it's just like we're very over it as human beings. Like it's not very effective, and it's like very time consuming, and it just doesn't really work. So what I would suggest with your emails is to play around with what feels good for you. I was doing for a while, and it was working pretty well, doing what I called a snapshot, where once a week I was sending out an email to my community where it was like no pitching, value packed. I did find though that the open rates weren't as high, I think, as they could be, because it was short, but it was still a lot of different things built into one. So you have to kind of figure out what feels good for you, what makes sense for your community of who you're talking to. But what I've decided to do, and I'm changing it up like literally starting this next week because I've just migrated everything to a new platform, is sending out emails that go out 1 to 2 times a week so that they're still hearing from me. Because I know a lot of us will have emails and we just never send things out because we don't know what to send them, or we feel spammy, or we end up just emailing because we're in like a launch and we're trying to sell something. So instead, thinking about how could you commit, even if it's once a week, to sending out an email to your community, but thinking about doing it in like kind of like the new paradigm, the new way. So for me, I've decided that looks like me sending out content that's short, it's snackable and digestible, but like super value packed of stuff that is valuable to the women that I work with in their business, and like not going with like fancy like titles, like the one thing you must know, blah, 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 but instead coming in with booking calls, like really simple titles that people would read that and they're like, oh, like I struggle with booking calls, or, they read it and they're like, how to structure a challenge, like things that are actually valuable to people, where they'd read it and be like, oh, I've learned something new. And just at the PS is where I say, like, if you're interested in working with me, reach out or hit reply, or you can book a call. But instead of having pitches like through my email, or like saying like scarcity, like 17 hours left until the things close, buy now, like I'm not doing any of that. Literally just using it as a form of communication. And the reason that I really urge you guys to have one and regularly email them is because if Facebook disappears, like say your Facebook account gets frozen. This literally just happened to my partner, and he got in Facebook jail and they froze his account and he had to make a new one. It's like, what if that's where you do like all of your business? Or what if your Instagram, I've had it happen to clients where their Instagram disappears. It's like you own your email list. Like that's like old school. Like if you think about having your address book with people's names and phone numbers, it's like it's the one thing you own of the people that have said, I'm interested in what you're all about. So it's just seeing like, how can I effectively start to communicate with them on this method and this platform? Because it's one thing too, like there are those percentages of people that read their email every day. And there are people out there, like for like Kelsey, like I'm on hundreds of email lists too. And like what I did is I just like literally just created a new email address. So anything new and relevant comes to that. And I still have my other one, but I have things like that get filtered through. So like anything like actually important, until I update that person, hey, here's my new email address, I still monitor it. So it's up to you of like how you want to deal with that, or if you just want to be like unsubscribing as you go, or just like ignoring the other ones, putting them in the spam folder. But there are those people that will read it, and it comes back to the visibility too, where there's like actually a lot of power of just them seeing that you've emailed them. even if they don't open it, where they're like, oh, hey, like there's Kelsey again. And then they open up their Facebook and they actually read a post that you've got on Facebook. So it's just them feeling like you're that authority, like you're kind of everywhere. And sometimes they don't consume the content, but they just see you and they're like, oh yeah, like I really like that girl. Or they start to get hooked on the fact that they know they always learn something new in your emails. So that's why I suggest having one, because you own it. You can use it in different creative ways. It's just like finding how to do it without falling into like what a lot of other people teach around marketing, where it's just very sleazy and it doesn't work. And then people end up very drained, and then they do what you guys have described, where you just stop emailing it altogether. So thinking about your own strategy, and we'll do some strategizing together as we get more into the program. Because the other thing with the email list is, yes, it's important. Yes, I advocate for it. However, it's not like you have to go do it today, okay? It's like, it's just one thing to think about for the long term of your business. It's not something that you have to add to your plate this week, guys, to, oh my God, now I have to create this like email stuff and do all this. So if you don't have one, don't worry about it right now. If you do, awesome. You can start thinking about what you want to send out, and that's something you can totally get feedback in the group. But I would keep it on your radar as we get deeper into the program, because things like running ads and stuff and retargeting and all sorts of cool things that you can be doing with it, and tagging people to see like who's interested, who's opening things. There's lots that you can do with it in like a super non-sleazy kind of way as well. So that's my thoughts on emails for those of you guys that were asking. Does anyone else have any other questions before we wrap up? How are we feeling?
I feel really good. Could I just ask, could you like in real short tell us how you look at the group analytics?
Yeah.
Because that's something that's really interesting to me.
Okay, hold on. Let me now I will be honest that I'm not the best with analytics and stuff. So I oftentimes will have my VA help me with this, but let me just go in and show you the base knowledge that I have around. So if we go into, let's go into the Sacred She Sisterhood group. Maybe. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so group insights.
Oh.
So you can start to go in and you can go like deeper on it. So yeah, so in like the last 28 days, there's been 6.4 thousand post comments reactions. It's 34 new members, and it's saying minus 43% because it takes like on average how many group members join a day. So it hasn't gone down by 43%. It's just like percentage wise compared to average, it's 43% less than what some months have been in terms of new members. So then you can always go here and you can get even more analytics around it. So if you guys are, and you can like download these and stuff if you wanted to.
Oh, cool.
So it like shows you. So like I've been like sitting in and around the same like little peaks and like little things. Like I'll post something kind of polarizing and then I'll notice the group's gone down by 10 people. I've approved 88 people and I've declined 124 this month from people that are like fake accounts or men or people that don't have a business, you know, aren't aligned, whatever that looks like. Haven't blocked anybody. So it shows you those insights.
Kelsey asked, how do you see which people are like interacting and not interacting?
Right here, I think is the one. So it'll show you your top contributors. Where they're from. This is all really good analytics for you. There is somewhere on here though where it will show you. Or at least there was. I'm gonna have to ask my VA if it's still on here or if they've taken that off. I mean, if your group is pretty small, you'll be able to go in and do a clean out based on just you being able to see who's been engaging and not, because you'll know. But I mean, when you start getting up into the thousands, it's like kind of hard to remember who has and hasn't. So I wouldn't just start guessing, but there is some sort of setting somewhere in here where you should be able to actually see about the members. Oh.
Okay.
So I'll look into that for you guys and I'll share it into the group.
Cool.
Because I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure that there is a setting on the Insights somewhere in there that you can still see that. Because I know before when you just hit analytics, you could see, and it would do like how it showed those top 10 contributors, but it would keep going. And it would show like how many posts everybody's done. So you could just keep going and scrolling until you're at the people where it's been like 0. And then you can see who's done nothing. Okay. And should I be trying to grow my group with the right people or just focusing on my personal profile? For Andrea, for growing your group, I would focus on both really, because they're kind of funneling into each other, because there's going to be people like, say, if you're posting in a Facebook group, like those are the people that are going to be following your personal profile. Like they might not have joined your group yet, or you might be inviting them into your group. And then your group is like where like kind of a lot of the magic happens. It's like that community feel. It's where you can do a lot more of your lives. Like people feel like they're getting something extra by being in there. But on your personal profile is like where a lot of people that add you, or you add them, or you connect with them in a group, like that's where they're going to be scoping it out and seeing like what you're all about. So those are the 2 areas that I would really focus on, both of those. How did I grow the Sacred Cheese Sisterhood? Honestly, like it got to where it is. It took a year. Like I said, it could have been bigger because you can see I declined like lots of people, and we clean it up. Lives, doing lots of lives. I do a challenge every like 2 months or so in there, which has usually been a big boost. I ask people to add other people, like not sleazy, like add all your friends, but like when I'll do certain things where I'll ask in the group or on like the welcome post, like just like lots of little messages like within it of saying, hey, if you know anybody who could value from this, invite them. Like sometimes it's just like asking for a referral. You have to kind of ask people for them to remember to do it. But yeah, challenges have been the big thing. Like I'll do a training in there, and then I'll go into like other groups that I know allow promotion, and I'll say, hey, I just did a training on storytelling. Like if you'd like access, drop an emoji, and then I'll message the people that have thing, and I'll say, hey, I just did it in my group, like trainings up at the top. And like there's been times where my group has gone up by over 100 people that are interested in the training, and then they stay inside of the group. People, I have it on my Instagram bio, so people find it there. They find it on my website. It's my cover photo on my profile, so people will see it on my profile and they'll join. But nothing from like paid ads or anything. It's been all organic and just like verbally inviting people in, them finding it, other people like really finding value in it. Typically after I do a really good training in there as well, if other people watch it and they like it, they'll start adding their friends. So I'd say at this point, it's probably like 60% me, like people finding it from like where I've shared it, and like 40% other people inviting people into the group now, being like, oh, you got to join this. Like, this is really good, which is really what you want to aim for, is like getting to like that 50-50 kind of ratio where people see so much value in it that they want to invite other people, and like that you've really created that community space. So that's my thoughts around that. I think Andrea hopped off, but then you guys can, anybody who can see that on the replay, because I know that's a goal for everybody, is growing their group, and that's something that we'll talk more and more throughout the program, because it's going to be different for all of you guys depending on your programs and your offerings. But being really consistent and showing up, doing live trainings will always grow your group, and just asking people to join your group, like giving them the invite, not just leaving it for people to find you and join randomly. And the busier your group is, like the more engagement, Facebook will put your group in front of other people. Like, when you're in a group and you have recommended groups, that's just going off an algorithm of seeing that your group is engaged with similar people. So it will start rewarding you and showing you. So that's why it's so important to have quality over quantity, because you could have 1,000 members that don't engage, or you could have 100 members that engage a lot, and then they will still show you to other people, right? Because if you look on the side, sometimes the groups are 1,000, sometimes it's like 100 people. It's literally just because of the engagement that's in the group. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Thumbs ups, we're good. Kelsey, I can't see you, but let us know in the comments that you're good. Fran, are you good? Jen's good. I saw Jesse's good. Okay, well, this is perfect. We're wrapping up. It was 2 hours. I will post the replay tomorrow evening, my time, which is 8 p.m. Hey, Kelsey, you're good? Okay, so yeah, 8 p.m. New Zealand, my time, so that is earlier. It's like different times for all of you guys. So in North America, that is the weird one for most of you guys. Like that's 11 p.m. Pacific, midnight Mountain Standard Time. So that is late for you guys. So this is like the better time. Fran, for you, you're 12 hours. So that's like 8 a.m. So you can definitely join in again. And if you have a different question or you want to come on and ask some other stuff, you can always join us for it. But yeah, that's where we're at. And then I'm going to do a couple like very short trainings this week, like not the big one, just a couple things around like overwhelm, self-discipline, finding the right schedule and flow, like a couple things like that, just to set you guys up for success. But this next week, let's really focus in on homework, working on our stuff, moving it forward, getting the feedback, and then we'll be getting ready for another bigger training for next week. So that way this week you don't have a bunch of stuff to watch. You can more so focus on moving stuff forward in your business, connecting with potential clients, doing all the good stuff. Okay, and good. Kelsey's good. Okay, so we will wrap it up here. I'll get this posted. It'll take probably a few minutes to get it converted and posted up in the group. And I look forward to chatting with all of you guys inside. Yay for our first call. Bye, ladies.